Okay, we are going to continue reading Beowulf. Before I read part two, I wanted to review part one. Part one was called The Coming of Grendel. And in the part one, Coming of Grendel, we met a powerful monster who's living underneath the hall where all the warriors are rejoicing and singing and partying and hanging out. Maybe they even sleep there. This hall is a great room in the castle for the king. Maybe he keeps all of his warriors close at hand so that he can go out and do whatever it is that warriors do. But they're there singing and playing music and sing songs about God. And this is something that the powerful monster doesn't like. He has pain from the sound, and of course, any rejoicing, fun, or talking about God would make the monster uncomfortable. So here we have some pagan ideas of monsters, and we have Christian ideas of God. And so the monster is underneath and upset. And what he eventually does is he comes up to the hall and he grabs a bunch of the warriors and he kills them quickly and runs away with their bodies, laughing with delight because, of course, he's a monster and he is evil. And they notice when they wake up in the morning that all these warriors are dead, and the king, Hrothgar, is very sad. He's lost all of his warriors. And then it happens night after night after night. Grendel, the monster, keeps coming back, and he ends up, pretty much in charge, owning the mead hall, the place where they would hang out. And the king is left with no warriors, and sad for 12 long years. He's very sad, and everybody is singing songs and telling the story of how horrible this is. And the advisors to the king are saying, "Why don't we go back to our old heathen pagan ways and pray to our old stone gods and call on the devil to help us?" And they can't find a way out. But this song, this story, has been told all over the planet, and far away. No, not in Geat land. Beowulf hears this story. He hears the story of Grendel, and he says, "Wait, I'm a strong macho guy, and I'm going to get a boat, and I'm going to put 14 of my macho men in it, and we are going to go and we're going to save the day." And so they sail out towards the Danish shore. So they come from, Beowulf is a Geat, and he goes to Denmark, the Danish shore. So maybe the Geats are up in Scandinavia. Maybe they're like, Swedish or Vikings or Norwegian, all right? And they're coming down to the continent, to the Danish shore along the upper northern part of Europe. Okay, so here we go with the reading. The Coming of Beowulf. When Wulfgar, there's another name of another character, went to the door and addressed the waiting seafarers with soldiers' words, "My lord, the great king of Danes, commands me to tell you that he knows of your noble birth, and that having come to him from over the open sea, you have come bravely and are welcome. Now go to him as you are, in your armor and helmets, but leave your battle shields here and your spears. Let them lie waiting for the promises your words may make." So, when Beowulf comes, they greet him with these fancy words. The great king of the Danes, that's Hrothgar, knows about his noble birth, all right? So he was born with property, and he knows that he's brave. He's welcome to come in with his armor and helmets, but he's going to leave his battle shield and spears, leave the weapons. and let them lie waiting for the promises your words may make. So notice the bold language. Apparently, talking bold is not considered egotistical. It's considered honor. All right, so he's honoring Beowulf with these brave words. So here comes Beowulf. Beowulf arose with his men around him, ordering a few to remain with the weapons, leading the others quickly along under Herit's steep roof into Hrothgar's presence. Standing on that prince's own hearth, helmeted, the silvery metal of his mail shirt gleamed with a smith's high art. He greeted the Danes' great lord. Okay, so now we've met Beowulf. He does leave some people behind to guard the weapons because, of course, someone might steal them. Remember, these are Vikings, after all. And that's one of the things that they were known for, was going and grabbing things when they were available. And they have this epic language about the prince, and then the way that he's dressed, helmeted, silvery metal, gleaming. Okay, the person who made it was very fancy. All right, so he talks to Beowulf talks to the king, Hrothgar. Hail, Hrothgar! Hygelac is my cousin and my king. The days of my youth have been filled with glory. Now Grendel's name has echoed in our land. Sailors have brought us stories of Herit, the best of all meat halls, deserted and useless when the moon hangs in the skies that the sun had lit, light and life fleeing together. My people have said, the wisest, most knowing, and best of them, that my duty was to go to the Danes' great king. They have seen my strength for themselves. They have watched me rise from the darkness of war, dripping with my enemy's blood. Notice, Beowulf has stood up, and he's now starting to talk to the king, and he's using these large words, all right, filled with glory. His youth is filled with glory. Herit, the mead hall, is the best of all mead halls. Okay, he says that his people, the wisest people, have said his duty was to go to the Danes. Apparently, he's supposed to save the day. And then he starts talking about his own strength. They have seen my strength. Okay, they have seen me dripping with my enemy's blood. Notice that he gets to brag about himself. All right. Apparently, that's not a problem. That's not considered ego or arrogance. He's allowed to say this in this particular culture. Okay. I drove five great giants into chains, chased all of that race from the earth. I swam in the blackness of night, hunting monsters out of the ocean and killing them one by one. Death was my errand and the fate they had earned. And now Grendel and I are called together, and I've come. Grant me then, Lord and protector of this noble place, a single request. I've come so far, O shelterer of warriors, and your people's loved friend, that this one favor you should not refuse me, that I, alone, and with the help of my men, may purge all evil from this hall. I have heard, too, that the monster's scorn of men is so great that he needs no weapons and fears none, nor will I. My lord Hygelac might think less of me if I let my sword go where my feet were afraid to, if I hid behind some broad linen shield. My hands alone shall fight for me. Struggle for life against the monster. God must decide who will be given to death's cold grip. Notice how brave he is talking. All right. He comes and he talks about how Grendel and him are called together. This apparently is his fate. Okay. He thinks that Grendel and him are supposed to be together. They're supposed to die together or fight. And he talks to the king and he uses these kennings, the shelter of warriors, the people's loved friend. And then he talks about how he's going to do all this alone, right? I'm going to do this alone with the help of my men. And Grendel doesn't need any weapons, so he won't use any weapons, all right? He's going to let God decide who should win. So, Grendel's plan, I think, will be what has been before, to invade this hall and gorge his belly with our bodies. If he can, he can. And I think if my time will have come, there'll be nothing to mourn over, nor no corpse to prepare for its grave. Grendel will carry our bloody flesh to the moors and crunch on our bones and smear torn scraps of our skin on the walls of his den. No, I expect no Danes will fret about sewing our shrouds if he wins. And if death does take me, send the hammered mail of my armor to Higelac. Return the inheritance I had from Hrethel, and he from Wayland. Fate will unmind as it must. Notice he's not worried about dying. Apparently, dying in battle is such an honor that he gets to pass his armor back to the family it came from, and apparently it was passed down to from Higelac to Hrethel to Wayland. The armor he wants, passed on to some other warrior. Maybe his own son is ready to take the armor and die in it. Apparently, that's honorable, so he's okay with doing it. And then Hrothgar's men gave places to the Geats, yielded benches to the brave visitors, and led them to the feast. Apparently, when somebody comes to visit, you give them a place to sit, and you give them lots of food. We still do that today. The keeper of the mead came carrying out the carved flasks and poured that bright sweetness. A poet sang from time to time in a clear, pure voice. Danes and visiting Geats celebrated as one, drank and rejoiced. This is common today, that when you get together, you eat and rejoice together. There was the sound of laughter and the cheerful clanking of cups and pleasant words. And then Wealhtheow, Hrothgar's gold-ringed queen. Okay, so here, now we have a woman finally showing up in this story of macho men. Wealhtheow, Hrothgar's gold-ringed queen, greeted the warriors, a noble woman who knew what was right. She raised a flowing cup to Hrothgar first, holding it high for the lord of the Danes to drink, wishing him joy in that feast. So she knows what to do. What does she do? She gives drink to her lord. So she serves her lord with some of this drink. Apparently, that is the position of this queen in this society. The famous king drank with pleasure and blessed their banquet. And then Wealhtheow, this woman, went from warrior to warrior, pouring a portion from the jeweled cup for each, till the bracelet-wearing queen had carried the mead cup among them, and it was Beowulf's turn to be served. Apparently, the woman's job here is to serve each one of the warriors with some of this drink. She saluted the Geats' great prince, thanked God for answering her prayers, for allowing her hands the happy duty of offering mead to a hero who would help her afflicted people. He drank what she poured, Edgego's brave son, and then assured the Danish queen that his heart was firm and his hands were ready. Right. Here he's going to talk about how ready he is. And it may be interesting to try to see whether or not, if someone talked like this nowadays, what would we think of them? So he says to her, "When we crossed the sea, my comrades and I already knew that all my purpose was this, to win the goodwill of your people or to die in battle, pressed in Grendel's fierce grip. Let me live in greatness and courage, or here in this hall welcome my death." Dun, dun, dun. Wealhtheow was pleased with his words, his bright tongue boasts. She carried them back to her lord, walked nobly across to his side, and the feast went on, laughter and music, and the brave words of warriors celebrating their delight. Okay, so that's part two. What we're going to notice in part two is the amount of boasting and bragging going on. We notice that Beowulf comes to save the day, and he doesn't do it humbly and quietly. He comes and he tells about what he's going to do. using brave words, strong